Hi and welcome back. I'm Meng. Welcome to the 8th episode of the Design Systems course. Getting production-ready assets and code from your design elements has always been a huge challenge for designers and developers. It's only recently that tools enable anyone in the team to inspect sizes, to inspect properties, and distances. Figma takes it to the next level by making it available in the design tool, all in one without having to download so many third-party applications. So if you want to share your designs to anyone, including clients and coworkers who may not have access to Figma, you can just click on the share button. And here you can enable link access by copying the link, and then anyone with the link can have access to this file. So let's copy this link and go to the browser as someone who doesn't have Figma, and this is what they're going to see. If they don't have an account, they will only be able to view it. They won't be able to inspect it. But if you send it to someone who has an account, even though they are not in your team, they can open it and they can inspect all the CSS, the code, the distances, the properties, and even get the asset. So if I click here, it's gonna give me the asset. Now let's go back to the design tool, and let's say we're changing something, and already I can see that there's a person outside that is doing something to this file. So this is real-time collaboration, and I can even go to the asset itself and decide to export it, let's say as an SVG. And so the next person is going to be able to export that and get the SVG file right away instead of going to the source file. Now once I have this person on my list in my share, I can decide that this person can also edit. And so I'm giving permission for that person to edit. And so it's gonna refresh. And now as the person from outside the team, I can move things around like this. So if I move it like this, you can see that this person has changed my asset. Now I'm gonna put it back in its place. And voila, everything is in sync, and you can really do real-time collaboration with this. Now the other thing I want to show you is how to get the SVG code. So you can click on this vector and you can right click and copy as SVG. So instead of exporting as a file, you can get the code and put this code instead of an asset inside your website. So that's really useful. The other thing that I can do is get the CSS property. So for example, I click here and I can go to the code tab, and here I can get different languages such as for Swift and Android. And if I want to have the CSS properties, these are just properties, but I can go to code and get the different values, such as the background, like this. So if I have my CSS, I'm gonna put these values for my gradient, like this. And just like Sketch, you can also have a slice tool. Let's go to the second drop down and select the slice tool, or you can press S. And the slice tool allows you to create any zone inside your design to create an image. So I can decide to export this as a JPEG, or I can set it to, let's say, 500 width, and it's gonna export it. So for the next person, can go to this slice and export it. Get it at a 500 resolution in terms of width. So for now, I'm just going to remove the slice, and I want to show you the version history feature. Before that, let's just organize all our frames. So this one is going to be home, this one is going to be article, and I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to create a courses page. I'm going to delete all of this stuff, such as the cells, as well as this menu. Let's change the background. So let's create the courses layout really quickly. I'm gonna set it to left align. I'm gonna put it 200 from the left. Let's make this text one of the styles. Let's say to 24. Using the large text instead, and I'm gonna paste this text. Set this to 500 and 500, and I'm going to bring a bunch of cards. Let's select the whole thing. Select the frame here and do Command V. Let's put it right here. Then let's bring a button component. Perhaps use a different gradient. Set it to start course. Now I can just save this to my version history. So I can do Option, Command, and S. I'm going to name it, let's say, courses page. And this is going to send to the version history. If I want to have access to the version history, I can go to File and then Show Version History. And now I can see that the change before that was the vector network. So if I want to compare, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. See, I can switch back and forth between this save and then this save. Of course, Figma is able to autosave everything. So in between the commits, you also have the autosaves. So I can see a history of what we've done so far. And I can go back and edit current version. So it's just gonna go back and edit that version that I wanted to restore. So as you can see, Figma is able to have the same features as Abstract, as Zeppelin, all in one single application. And I haven't even shown you all the things you can do with prototyping yet, which we're gonna explore a little bit later. But before we go into prototyping, let's build a bunch of pages. For example, the courses page, we should probably try to do dark mode. So I'm gonna go to background and select a dark background. For the wave, I can set a color picker to get the same color for the background. And then let's add some text here. So a caption 12 sections. It's gonna be light blue using caption semi-bold. Let's say 10 from the title. Move down a little bit and move down a little bit. Maybe we should also mention about the author. So we're gonna have multiple authors on Design Plus Code eventually. Let's change this text to normal text. It's gonna say taught by, and now we can use the avatar. So let's say 80 by 80. I'm gonna put one of these avatars. There you go. So we're gonna do another page for downloads. Let's duplicate courses, Command D, and rename it to downloads. I can remove the content for now, keeping the background because this is consistent. Let's create a giant card that's 1000 by 500. Let's center it, and let's say 150 from the top. Let's set the corner radius to 14. Let's set a gradient. This is gonna be a custom one, so we're gonna go to gradient, set it to the top left and to the bottom right. Use Control C to get really dark, and then for this one to be much lighter. I'm going to bring the background asset, so it's going to be downloads file, and paste it right here. I'm going to set the rotation to -15 degrees like this, and perhaps resize it so that it fits. Let's do some masking here. Now we have the card and then we have the image. We need to make sure that the image does not exceed the card. So what we need to do is masking. But masking in Figma works a little bit differently. You need to have a dedicated layer for masking. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. So the card layer, I'm gonna name it card, and Command D, and the second card, so I'm gonna name it mask. I'm gonna right click on it and use as mask like this. So now I have a background, but I also have the mask. I'm going to select all three and create a group called, let's say, featured. So if we put text here, you're going to see that it's not going to be very readable. So what we need to do is go to the image and add a new fill. So in Figma, you're going to have multiple fills, we're going to have multiple stroke and effects. We're going to add a second fill, and this is going to take care of the gradient. So I'm going to resize this so that it fits the mask. Like this. And then I'm going to take care of the gradient. I'm going to move it from here to roughly here. Then I'm going to set the color. So this one is going to be using the background, but a lot darker. And I'm going to use the same color on the other side as well. I'm going to set the opacity for this one to be, let's say, at 50%. The other thing I can do is to add a middle color. I'm going to click here like this, and here I can make it darker. So basically this portion I can add a bunch of text and it's going to be really readable. Awesome. Now let's add the text. Press T, and I'm going to type design plus code, design files, set it to white, or if you're designing for dark mode, you don't want to use full white, so like 80% is fine. Let's make it really big, either 60 or 30, but I think 60 is fine. Let's left align. I'm going to group the mask so that it doesn't get in the way of my distancing. This is going to be my mask. And here I can set it to 50 from the top and 50 from the left. And then we have the usual suspect, which is captions. So let's say 50 gigs of files, and then set it to caption semi-bold. Set the text to auto resize using the width. We can change the color to light blue. Then we have the text itself. Set this one to normal text. And I'm going to do Command-Shift-V for the text. Sometimes you paste it with a bunch of styles and you don't want that, so you do Command-Shift-V. Let's make it to 400 perhaps. And then we need a button. Go to Component, get the button, rename it to Download All. So our website is starting to look like something. We're starting to have a few pages, but I don't necessarily want to repeat some of these techniques. I want to teach you new techniques. So what I'm gonna ask you is to try to replicate some of the designs that we have in the live website, like this one. I think that would be a good practice for you, just to create these cards. And you already see where I'm trying to get, meaning that we're using the design system, we're using these titles, these captions, these texts, and we're just putting them together in different ways. So you can definitely follow the design that we have in the live website using the assets that are provided, and that will be your little homework. So you can do this part, you can do the cells here, you can also do the same for the courses page. So at the bottom we have these other cards, these logos, and these other cards. But before we finish this session, I do want to show you how to create these modals, and especially with these little shapes that I used and with the blurring effect. That's kind of nice. So let's do that. I'm gonna go to Design Code 3, duplicate this, and delete this portion, set a different background. So let's use this one for example. Let's rename this to Congrats. Let me create a rectangle that is 600 by 550. Let's center it roughly 180 from the top or 150 from the top. Let's set the corner radius to 20. I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to get the same style of this tooltip right here. So I'm going to get the union layer because it needs to have these properties right here. So I can do right click, copy properties, and go here and paste properties. Now we have exactly the same styles. Now we're going to bring this logo, Command-Shift-V right here, set it to, using K, I'm going to set it to, let's say 60 by 60. Group these two together, name it modal, and this should be aligned horizontally with 60 from the top. Let's add a title, so press T and set Congrats. Let's add some gradients like this one to make it really happy, and change the text style to 60, also an exclamation point. So let's make it center yet again, put it in the group. So if you're not putting it in a group, sometimes the distances won't work correctly. So for example, if it's outside the group, it doesn't allow me to show distance against the logo, but if it has a sibling element, it allows me to do that. Then let's add some text, and in the text we're gonna make it, let's say 24 or even 30, because it needs to be very readable. I'm gonna resize this. Okay, so let's set this to light blue. Make this 400, center it, and then center in the middle, like this. Move up a little bit. Then let's bring a button right here. We really want people to tweet about this, so tweet, yay. Alright, so let's make this even happier with a bunch of shapes. So I'm gonna set a circle and make it a gradient. Gonna do another one that is smaller and another one that is medium. Let's draw some rectangle. So press P, like this, like this, like this. Remove the stroke, add another gradient. We can always alternate the colors. So this one is gonna be another one, and this one is gonna be purple. The same with these. I'm going to duplicate and turn it around, make it smaller, duplicate again, make it bigger, and rotate it like this. The other thing I can do is to use blur. So I can set an effect, and there's a layer blur, which is really nice. We're gonna set it to, let's say 50 or 40. And do another one, set the layer blur to 20. So it has to be random. We can even bring some of the shapes from the logo itself. So like this arrow, I'm gonna copy and paste it. But the thing is, this shape is using a mask, so that's dangerous. We're gonna go here and we're gonna remove that mask. So now I'm just going to move it around a little bit. Use one of my gradients, rotate it. Create another one here. And add some blur. Let's rearrange a little bit. Let's do another part of the logo, like this one, and you can already see there's a mask here, so be careful again. Remove the mask. So change the different gradients. That's basically it. At this point, you know, you can do anything you want. You can just have more shapes, add your own shapes, add your own confetti. Just make it really fun and really happy. Yeah, I can spend the whole day really playing with these shapes, but you can see that we're just, you know, randomizing the position using blur, resizing in multiple ways, changing the backgrounds, having different shapes, and you can really experiment in your own ways using your own confetti elements. And I would love to see what you come up with your own backgrounds and your own text and using your own content. So feel free to tweet about it, because I love to see tweets, as you can see. And again, we've learned so much today. We've learned a lot about how to share your files, how to create assets, inspect elements, work with teammates using real-time collaboration. We've learned how to check the coding tab, how to create slices, as well as, we've practiced creating the courses page, the downloads page, and now we're creating a really, really happy page. So hopefully you're enjoying this course. Please send me feedback if you have any. I'll see you in the next session. Thanks very much.